This is a upper extremity neurological exam. We're going to be testing C5 through T1. We're going to be doing sensory, motor, and reflex testing. To start off with, I'm going to do sensory, and I'm going to do a little baseline with my patient here so they can identify sharp and dull. I'm going to have you close your eyes. Okay, this would be dull. That would be sharp. Can you differentiate that? To tell the difference? Tell me which one is which.
Sharp. Dull.
Okay, so she knows what sharp and dull is, so I'm going to go through the dermatomes of the upper extremity here, okay? And I'm going to pretend like I'm testing her. You can test both sides. You can test her affected, so I'm going to consider her right side affected. I'm going to go down her left side just to do a baseline for her, okay? And you tell me whether it's sharp or dull. I'm going to do C5,
Sharp.
C6,
Dull.
C6,
Dull.
C7,
Sharp.
C7,
Sharp.
C8,
Dull.
and T1.
Sharp.
Okay, and then I'm going to go to I'm going to consider the affected side and do the same thing. The C5 area,
Sharp.
the C6 area,
Dull.
C6 again,
Dull.
the C7 area,
Sharp.
C7 area again,
Dull.
C8,
Sharp.
C8,
Sharp.
and T1.
Dull.
Okay, that's the sensory of the brachial plexus. C5, C6, C7 in the middle finger in the back of the hand, C8 the medial forearm and medial hand, and then T1 on the medial elbow. Okay. After that, I'm going to bilaterally test each dermatome or myotome. The first one I'm going to do is C5, which is shoulder abduction. So I'm going to ask her to hold her hands out to her side. I'm going to test them bilaterally as a screening exam, and I can always go into further evaluation if I find any weakness. So I'm going to ask her to shoulder abduct, and I'm going to push down and don't let me push down. Okay, that's for shoulder abduction in C5. Okay, I'm going to ask her to flex her elbows. Okay, and I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to ask her to resist me doing that to test C6 in the biceps brachii. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is ask her to put her forearms on her thighs. I'm going to do C7 as a screening exam. And I'm going to push up. I'm going to ask her to resist me. I'm going to do each one individually. Okay, don't let me push up. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Push up. Okay. C7. You can also do for C, that's tricep and C7. You could also do wrist extension. Okay, for C7. You can do that bilaterally pretty easily. For C8, I'm going to do finger flexion. I'm going to curl her fingers up in my fingers. Go ahead and curl your fingers up into my fingers. I'm going to pull them out. Don't let me pull them out. You can also do finger ab and adduction. So I'm going to ask her to spread her fingers. Okay, and I'm going to push your fingers together and tell her to resist me. Don't let me push your fingers together. I'm going to do each one. For T1, you can use a piece of paper, or I'm going to use my fingers as a screening exam. I'm going to put my fingers in between her fingers, and I'm going to try to pull my fingers out. I'm going to tell her not to let me pull them out. So she's going to adduct her fingers, and I'm going to try to pull them out, and I'm going to screen to see if I can pull them out. Okay, for T1. Right, so that's a motor testing of C5, C6, C7, C8, and T1. If that was a screening exam, if I had any indication that there was some weakness there, I could go manual muscle test the particular muscles involved for that particular screening exam to get a further idea of the amount of weakness or the level of weakness that we have in the particular myotome. The last one is the reflex testing. For C5 is the biceps reflex. Okay? So I'm going to find the biceps tendon, so I'm going to ask her to contract her bicep. I'm going to put my thumb on it and ask her to relax. Okay? And I'm going to try to get the reflex without having her perform Jindresik's maneuver. So I'm just going to hit my thumb over the biceps tendon. Okay? And I do get a reflex doing that. I can feel it and you can see it. So that's the C5. That would be a normal reflex or a grade 2. C6 is the brachioradialis reflex, so I'm going to ask her to relax. The brachioradialis, go ahead and flex your forearm, bring your forearm up like this. Your forearm, go like that. This is her brachioradialis right here. Okay, relax. And I'm going to try to hit, relax your arm. I'm going to try to hit the tendinous part. This is the fleshy muscle part, and it becomes tendinous right about here. So I'm going to, there it goes. That's the brachioradialis reflex, okay, where I'm hitting the tendon. You might take a little, some people are more reflexive than others, but you just got to make sure you're hitting it on the tendinous part up against the radius. That's C6 for the reflex. The C7 reflex, okay, I'm going to do the tricep. I'm going to get her to relax, let her arm, and then I'm going to hit the tricep tendon here. I'm going to use the pointy part of the reflex hammer, and you can see there I've got a C7 reflex that is normal, okay? So that's there's only 3 reflexes. We do C5 with the bicep, C6 is the brachioradialis, and then C7 is the tricep reflex. And you're just looking for a normal reflex, a grade 2 reflex on the reflex testing. That's the C5 through T1 upper extremity neurological exam.